You're ready. Who's the most important player on this Nebraska defense?
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, DP here, Derrick Pearson, 93.7 Ticket, League in America. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you for subscribing. If you have, and if you haven't, take a moment, get down there and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Make sure you get these notifications each and every single day. This content is coming, so we want you to get access to it. I want to thank the folks from FanDuel Sportsbook. Go take a moment. You've subscribed to Locked On Huskers, and then go to your device and find the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's easy to download. There's no trickery to it. It's simple. You can scroll through. You can find the sport of your choice, the team of your sport of your choice. You can make whatever bets that you want to make, and it's simple. All you got to do, for all the details, FanDuel.com/locked on for more details on the perks of FanDuel.com. I want to talk defense. I want to talk about different sides of the ball and watching practice. Defense is a different kind of beast than offense, especially here in Nebraska, especially with a new defensive coordinator. Now, I'm going to spend the first part of this podcast talking about the coordinator. And then I'll talk about the player, and I'll talk about the player that I think is the most important in telling the story of Nebraska's defense this year. And then we'll talk about stories to watch. Somebody that, you know what? Circle their name and pay attention to their place and location on the depth chart. Pay attention, because there's three elements I want to deal with today. The first element is Tony White as defensive coordinator. And we've talked a bunch over the course of these podcasts about the 3-3-5 defense, what that means. We've talked in previous podcasts about his history, his story, his journey. A linebacker, defensive coordinators who are linebackers, look, they're gritty, they're aggressive, they like physical defenses. Most coaches and coordinators work from their own spirit. So whatever type player they were, they tend to craft teams that match their personality and their profile. Tony White was a linebacker, West Coast linebacker. As they say, he was a running and hitting SOB. Like, let's go. Dropping coverage. If you dared catch a slant behind him, keep your head on a swivel, because he was going to put a rat-a-tat-tat on you. You were going to pay for it. You're going to run a crosser across Tony White. Guess what? You got to pay. You got to pay toll. The toll's name is Tony. You're going to have to pay. You cross in front of here. Anything that crosses in Tony White's space, boom, take the hit. See you next play if you get up. Because he was going to get up. You're going to attack his gap. Guess what? He was going to fill, meet you with violence, and then complete the play. He's a playmaker from side to side. So what he asks and what he frees up his defenders to do is to do what he loved to do. When he talk about them wanting to be a physical defense, that's not just being a bully and roughshotting. That's purposeful, intentional physicality. The purposeful part is important, because you're in this defense. The whole mission of the 3-3-5 is to give you 8 athletes at the back of this thing that can run, fill, hit, and finish, instead of 7 or 6. Like, that's really where this comes from. If you have a team with 9 big thumpers up front, but they're not very good in space, 3-3-5 is for you. Why? Because you can rotate them, you can keep them fresh and keep them from having to do too much. And then game down circumstance situation dictate those other 8. And the 8 are fluid. There'll be 2 core linebackers, 2 run-fill linebackers, 2 multi-purpose linebackers, and then 2 edge setters whose job is to just cause chaos. Be on the edge. If it's a running play, read it, get on your horse, and act like the posse. If it's a passing situation, get on the edge, get your eyes right, identify where your threats are. Is there a receiver coming behind you into that space so you can get your hands up, knock a pass down? And if there's no threat coming, then hit turbo, hit that other button, and then leverage a quarterback from the outside shoulder, from the downhill quarterback shoulder forward. And then if he has not made a decision by the time you can get there, punish him. Punish him. Boundary setters whose job is to frustrate, aggravate, get on the nerve of those big thumpers on the offensive line. Pull and guard, crash it. Take him on. Remember that you see him coming before he sees you. He's got his eyes over there, but you see a hat coming, you know, oh, here it comes. Those boundary setters, their job, crash that, break it down, and then go eat. Go eat. Tony White's going to allow those 2 internal linebackers, and we know that ideally it's Reimer and Heinrich. We know what they're capable of. We know they just love to get to the ball. They like to take angles and get to the ball. I don't want either of them having to run through the wall to get to the ball. I want them to run through the gap and then use the cap. Find a hole and knock somebody's head off. That's what I want from those interns. I don't want them. If you're Tony White, I would imagine that he's preaching. I don't want my internal linebackers to consistently have to take on 315-pound offensive linemen, especially in the Big Ten where they're grown fat and nasty. And at 230 pounds, look, you can have all the heart in the world, but 330-pounder leans on you 10, 12 times a half. Guess what? That back half, your commitment to execution isn't quite the same. It's just a little different. So it's Tony White's job to free those guys up and to watch them move today, to watch Reimer's move, and it's big because he's coming through a recovery as well. And to hear Tony White talk about moving different personnel into the linebacker position and different personnel into the linebacker responsibilities. He uses a rover. He uses a nickel. He uses extra safeties. He gets to be a mad scientist. But at the core of his science is that everybody out there has to be responsible for physicality. Everybody has to hit. Everybody is being asked to finish. We'll talk about who some of those players are. Matter of fact, we'll talk about the most important player when we're talking about this Nebraska defense. When we come back to Locked On Huskers. Thank you once again for hanging out. Locked On Huskers. Greatly appreciate you. It means a lot. First watch, first listen each and every single day. Your second should be Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown. Why? It's March. Basketball matters. The madness matters. What we're going to do here is give you more information, help you make informed decisions on your bracket, let you find some insider information, some keys to look for, all of that on Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown. You can find it on YouTube or however you consume your podcast. We're talking spring practice, Husker defense, defensive coordinator Tony White, and in your own image. You create a defense in your own image. If you're gonna I'm gonna ask in your mind who you think the most important defensive Husker is. The player that's going to easily tell you how this season is going or went defensively. It's a veteran. It's a captain. Not the one you think, though. It's Nick Heinrich. He was missed at the end of last season. He was missed when he went out. If he's not on the field, this defense then has to do some things that Tony White doesn't want to have to do. That's to move other defenders into this space and to those responsibilities. If Reimer and Heinrich are together and they play for the duration, they make Ty Robinson better. They make anybody else that likes stuff on Wynn Jr., it makes them better. It makes these defensive backs better because they're going to take on the bulk of the heavy lifting. They're going to take on the bulk of the reads. They're going to take they're going to make the bulk of the tackles. And at a season's end, we'll be able to look at Heinrich's numbers and his plays on the field, and it will tell us how this thing went. We know what Reimer's looks like playing a whole season or most of the season, 80% of the season. If we get that from Heinrich and Reimer, okay then. We're in business because it frees up Tony White to take Chief Borders, who's outside, chaos creator. Seth Malcolm, you bring in Big Georgia and let him run a little bit with the freedom of having somebody else do the contact work, and you free them up to be violence creators and chaos creators. Then Tony White is freed up to take away all of that passing nonsense that would beat Nebraska in the previous 3 years. Why? Because he'll be able to put, if those up front three backers can fill and handle the heavy lifting, then it allows you to send your 5 best defensive athletes to cover space, to take away routes that you know are coming, but you just don't have the personnel on the field to cover them, and allow them free range to free roam and go make plays. This defense should cause turnovers. That's what it did at Syracuse. That's what UCLA did. It's to get in space, create enough havoc, rush, speed up quarterbacks, speed up offensive linemen into mistakes, asking quarterbacks to throw through windows that appear open, that aren't really, to get hands up in the passing windows, right? Tip balls. There'll be a lot of tip balls in this defense. If it's done right, there's a lot of tip balls in defense because those 3 inside linemen will get their hands up and through those windows. And any throw from hash mark to hash mark should have 6 paws in those windows. And whatever way he turns, there should be 4 hands in those windows. And then to get them up, tip ball, as Jay Foreman says, it's tip drill time. And linebackers and defensive backs love that because then they get to go chase down balls and go make highlight reels. All of the stuff that's in play sets up for Tony White to be able to have some fun with this defense. Spread them out, make big linemen try to be athletic, and to force the small guys to be physical. That's the way I see it, and that's the way they seem to be working. I do want to talk about somebody in specifics, though. There was somebody today that was getting additional coaching attention, and he was getting additional coaching reps. He had a coach working with him one-to-one. Even in group drills and individual drills, this coach found additional time for this player. And this is a player of some renown And it should be noted that he's getting attention. He has the focus. And if he can accept coaching, he'll have a chance to do something spectacular. He'll have a chance to do something spectacular. I hope through everything else that we, as we go through this, that folks start to pay attention. New opportunities for players who are on the roster. They'll get new coaching, new responsibilities. They'll get a new skill set. They'll get new equipment for their belt, for their utility belt. And I hope that as the development side of this thing transitions, because right now you're in the install. You're the identification and the install. Once they know what you're saying to them, once they know what you're asking from them, then development can begin. We'll talk about that player. I know your head's spinning on who that is. We'll talk about that player when we come back to Lockdown. Thank you once again for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Thank the folks from FanDuel Sportsbook for what they do. Again, just be more informed. Be better informed. It's simple. Make every moment more informed, more purposeful. Go to FanDuel.com/lockdown. You don't have to make wagers without information. Matter of fact, you shouldn't. FanDuel Sportsbook. It'll take care of it. Go ahead and download it today. 6'6", 290 pounds of defensive lineman. 6'6", 290. And today I watched Terrence Knighton, defensive line coach for the Huskers, spend extra time with all 6'6", 290 pounds of Ruquan Buckley. Now, he is a massive specimen. Large hands, big torso, a lot of thump. And today, he got a lot of one-on-one time with his D-line coach on hand technique, leverage, shoulder leverage, hip placement, where his eyes should be, impact knowledge, impact teaching, him getting on the sled, getting used to what level his hips need to sink to in order to move this machine, where his hand should be, how the wrist should be locked up, what to do with his slide, and then what he was going to do in being able to see behind the contact that he was creating. There's a little thing people don't think about, and I could hear I could hear the coach saying, listen, not only, the impact when people are making that sort of violent force, that your eyes close. If you're going to punch up and try to create movement of something 300 pounds, there are very few people who can do that without wincing, without blinking. And that blink is important because while at the apex of his force, his eyes need to be open to see what's coming to either side, because he needs to force, lock up, see which side he needs to shed to, and then get to work. And to see about 30, 40 different additional reps, where to put your hands, where your hips should be, and then how are you going to create chaos and then get rid of the chaos. Ruquan Buckley got a lot of reps today. Got a lot of attention. Those are the things that happen at spring practice that jump out. When somebody's getting that sort of attention and that sort of time, there's a reason. Everything purposeful. Everything is purposeful. None of it just happens. None of it. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every day. Your second should be Locked On College Basketball. Isaac and Andy will take you through and break down college basketball at the highest level. They bring you coaches, players, whatever you need for the type of analysis you want to make informed decisions about college basketball. You can find it on YouTube or however else you consume your podcast. Thank you for today's time. We'll close with those 3 words. You know how we do it, baby. Go Big Red.